I don't know.
Hello, everybody. Susan here again with my dear friends Phyllis and Alyssa. We've been having so many great conversations. We can't stop having them because it's just been, I don't know, it just feels like there's a lot to talk about these days, a lot to figure out. So today we're going to be talking about long-term marriages, or maybe marriages, the good, the bad, and maybe the ridiculous or the ugly. So I have a little bit of statistics here that maybe is a good place to start. Let me just read this. I don't know if you guys know this, but about half of all married couples make it past 15 years, and 1 in 4 make it to their 50th anniversary. Interesting. The numbers may surprise you, but the stories behind them, I'm sure, even better. So we're going to be talking about the reality, as I said, of long-term marriage. And I just have to read one quote because I thought this really summed it up perfectly. The secret of a happy marriage remains a secret.
Love that.
So I think that
We're all
might be
searching for that secret.
I'll tell you.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Phyllis
well,
has been married the longest.
Yeah, so I think that's good. So
Yeah.
you've been married how long, Phyllis?
40 years.
40 years. Okay. And I've been married 23 years. I'll be 24 this year. And prior to that, I was married for 11 years and divorced for 5 in between.
And I was married for 18 years. My husband passed away. And then I was in a relationship for 18 years.
Yeah.
Not married.
So I think
still felt married.
So I feel like between the three of us, we have some interesting information because I added it up and we have over 100 years of marriage between the three of us. So.
And some days it truly does feel like that, but that's another story.
And it feels that way. Yeah, exactly. So,
You know, it's really funny too because we were talking about what we wanted to talk about next. And this is the kind of thing I think most women talk about all the time, their marriages, their husbands. And I think that, and because of that, for some reason, on my Instagram feed, I continually get things about the secrets to a happy marriage.
What were the answers?
Which is, well, actually, sometimes even on Instagram, you do get things. It's not really what I was going to talk about, but you do get things that make sense.
Yes.
One thing I think was interesting to me was somebody was discussing what to do when you're with somebody that you think you want to marry. And they thought that the most important question you should ask yourself is, are you in conversation with that person? Meaning, when you're alone together, is the conversation that happens between the two of you, sort of energizing to you? Is it something, because in the end, and I don't mean the very end, but after 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, it's the ability to stay and be in conversation with that person that actually makes you feel fulfilled and in a good relationship. So I thought that was just an interesting little thing, and we can talk about it in terms of how to get to that place. And did you always have it, and what else?
Is that like a friendriendship?
Yeah,
like
I
your
was
friends?
I was going to say, I think you hear people who have been in long-term good marriages say that at the end of it, that this was their best friend ever. Right.
I love that part.
Like, I think it has to be that way.
Well, I certainly think it has to be somebody that you trust has your best interests at heart. Right. I mean, I think women, we all know that women, generally speaking, and this is obviously in generality, have more close, intimate friendships than men tend to do. We always read studies. So I did read a study where, women very often have 2 or 3 very, very close friends they would define as intimate. And men often define their wives as their most intimate friend.
That's interesting.
And I believe that's true. I honestly think that's true for my marriage. That my husband does feel that way about me. And
you're
Wait
his best friend?
Wait a minute.
His best friend?
Bob may have a problem with that.
Oh yeah. So here's the thing. This is something else. I have to say this right now. When the other day,
Alan is one of his closest friends.
Well, it's a different kind of friendship. But the thing I want to
no,
tell
they're not romantically involved. This is not Bob, Ted. And
if they are,
whoever.
that is going to be a really interesting Instagram
that
live.
That would be a really good one.
But wait, this is what I do want to say. The other day we were together with our husbands, and they asked us. They asked us what our next topic was going to be, and we said, "Well, we're going to talk about marriage, the good, the bad, and the ugly." And there was like silence for a minute. There was silence.
They were scared.
And they said they actually said, if you're going to talk about anything that involves us, we need some sort of editorial.
I heard this.
Yeah, okay.
I heard this. Yeah.
And I thought about it for a minute, and I said, no. No, because the whole point of this
Right, if you can-
is to
Yeah.
be able to talk
And
honestly.
honest, yeah.
But
and be open and
yes,
yeah.
and of course we have some discretion, so they don't have to totally panic about this. But I do think that we can't live in fantasy. The point is to talk about what's real.
Yeah.
And, but I will say, not now, maybe down the road. I think it would actually be interesting to get their perspective.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah,
I
not
couldn't agree
today,
more.
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
next week, but down the road. I think that could be an
Right.
interesting topic to, we see things one way, they may be seeing them very differently than we do.
That's really
So-
let them get their own
yeah,
Instagram
they can
live.
get, exactly.
So going back to like
Yeah.
being, what are the good things that you're talking about, like being best friends, like that conversation, being connected on a really intimate level, maybe not just sex,
Right.
but it's intimacy in terms of being able to tell your partner anything, right?
Right.
About that, like just be able to talk to them about anything, not holding back, because a lot of people I know out there do hold back, of telling their partner everything.
I think one of the reasons you hold back.
Yeah, I was going to say, why do you think that is?
I'll tell you what I think.
Okay,
what I
let's hear
think. Not necessarily talking about my
I know
marriage.
you're going to give your opinion.
but what I think is that because you don't really feel that you're going to be listened to
Yeah.
and heard, and so
Right.
you don't feel
Safe,
making you don't
too?
feel you don't.
Or-
it's not safe. You really just don't feel that the kind of the energy that you're going to be disappointed
Right.
in the energy. So I think and that really isn't totally true anyway about my
Right.
marriage, but there are times that it is true,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that is partly a reason why
Yeah.
women you do hold back in that way.
I think it's interesting because talking about besides being friends, which I think is the one it's not cliche, but you hear people say it all the time. But I do think one of the things, and especially in today's world where a lot of women work and you have 2 career families. I mean, one of the things that I think in the beginning of my marriage with Bob, he was my biggest advocate. He was
For you working?
not just working,
Or just-
everything. He was like, I felt like I was so supported and that this guy believed like 150% in anything that I wanted to do. And actually, to be honest, I give him credit all the time when I tell the One Kings Lane story. He was the one who really like pushed me and said, like, what
You could do it all.
You could do it. Like, why not? And what's the
Yeah.
worst that could happen? So I do think, you talk about being safe. I
Yeah.
think this feeling of somebody who like has your back
Yeah.
and believes in you,
Right.
and nothing's easy. So if you have
No.
somebody that's like your partner in crime that is gonna be supporting you all the way, I think that makes a big difference. And I think it's a 2-way street,
Yeah.
obviously.
I also feel like a lot of times we mess up and we screw up, right? We say the wrong thing, we do the wrong thing. Someone who you feel you can really trust that is going to also be supportive of your good, bad, and ugly, right?
No, absolutely.
Your personality or your quirks.
Look, I am sure that there are people that stay in long-term marriages for the wrong reasons, meaning economically they
Yeah.
feel trapped. I mean, I think that's a big
I think that's a
one.
huge one.
The
And-
fear of being alone. I'm going to say,
Well, no, the economic one, I just wanted to add a little color
Yeah.
to that. When I got divorced when I was 40, and I was the one that had initiated that divorce, I remember I was living in New York at the time, being in the Hamptons and being at a bar or something, and there were a bunch of women that I knew there, and people were like literally whispering in my ear, this is amazing. You're so strong. I could never do this.
Yeah.
I can't do this. I can't leave, And I think a lot of it was the financial. And by the way, a lot of those women are still in
the marriage.
horrible marriages.
My friend said the same
Yeah.
thing with me
Today.
separated from my relationship just recently. They're like, I would never leave because he has all the money and he takes care of me, and I'm afraid to go out on my own. And I'm also afraid of what else is out there.
And sometimes
Too.
it goes the other way. Like I have a friend, the situation is she has a lot of
Money herself, right.
And I think, maybe that she's holding her back, I don't
Yeah.
know.
well, no, but so one of the interesting things, and now look, in marriage, again, I'm talking about a marriage over 40 years. So a marriage over 40 years, it's naive to say that every moment of every
on.
week,
Come
every
on,
week,
Bliss.
once every 365 days we have a fight. Okay, just once a
That's it? That is so
It's
untrue.
only once
it's
a year?
no,
That's it?
No, I mean seriously, it's,
You just become numb to
it's,
each other.
It's a fantasy to say that there aren't times for him as well, I am sure, as it is for me, when you think, I don't know, is this worth it? I mean, that's it. You know, we're
But
not
do you-
communicating.
Really?
I wouldn't say, is this worth it? But you would say the communication is breaking down a little bit. You're taking each other for granted. You're in kind of a rut. You look at your friend who's on their second or third marriage. You say, well, that could be fun. And
you experience different people.
And you experience different people. And so there are moments. I mean, after 40 years, yes, there are moments. Then you think, I don't think they're seeing my changes. I don't think they're, I don't know. Am I doing enough for him? Am I am I listening to the?
Do you ask that question?
I will when when
I
I'm
love
done
that
here.
question.
I will.
I absolutely love that question.
I will. Well,
Are
I'll
you
tell
doing
you.
enough for you?
So here's a revealing thing I will say. When I talked to my husband about doing this podcast the other day, guess what? It did open up a conversation about our marriage.
We love
There you
that.
go.
And
That's good.
here's the good part. The good part is he was very, very open and receptive
I love that.
to talking about it. Absolutely. And I'll even say, and this was just a couple of days ago, so, I can't. I even say that I see little hints that he's actually thinking about it when we talk to each other, that he's actually thinking about it. So what I would say is,
That little fire under
so
it.
so I would say, well, no, because the interesting thing is you do fall into rut after 40 years, and you sort of think, this isn't going to change, and this isn't. But then you think about, but what are the great reasons for staying together? We're obviously not talking about women who are in abusive marriages or with serial,
Right,
cheaters. We're talking about just the length of time that changes happen. Do you roll with the changes? Is that person?
Well, yeah, no, but I think that's a great question because I love that was that conversation started. But when you get into long-term marriages, I think especially as we get older, what do you think you can do to, I don't want to say reinvent, but to maybe freshen things up or make things feel, change with the times? Things are going to be different.
What about therapy?
right?
Well,
If things are kind of dull and going to talk to somebody and just seeing, what each of you want, really being able
I
to
think
really
having
like
an objective person, speaking to somebody who's hopefully is objective,
and
right?
can maybe just
Hear
give some
things.
life.
well,
back
therapy is
into-
always good.
Right.
In my opinion, therapy is always good.
Right.
But I'll tell you, this is a statistic that I thought was interesting. Again, you have to take them a little bit with a grain of salt. It is by a researcher in marriage and relationships. But in 1990, 8% of people over age 50 got divorced. Today, 40% of divorces are for people over 50, and even full 10% are people over 65 getting divorced. So you kind of wonder, that's an amazing statistic, an amazing phenomenon. What is happening? I'm over 65.
Has that rate gone down?
Well, you know what?
The percentage of people getting divorced over 60?
Well,
I think
I
I think the total divorce rate has gone down.
Right.
But you
Right.
know what? That statistic doesn't surprise me at all. You know why? Because I think at 50, I'm just talking about the over 50
Right.
one. So I think, and we talk about this a lot, we've talked about before, it's a complete shitstorm when people turn 50 because you go through major physical changes,
Yeah.
you become empty nesters, which I think is something that really contributes
Right.
a lot to this. Is once your kids are out of the house or
There's
one
no
of them out of the house,
distraction.
all of a sudden you're looking at this person that you spent probably 20 something years with and you're like, who the hell are you? We've been living on this side by side existence. We haven't really been living together.
Yeah.
And so, I hear this so often from
Yeah.
so many women. So it honestly doesn't surprise me. And I don't think that until you get to that point where your kids are grown or they're out of the house and you have a minute to sort of look around because you're too busy taking care of your kids and your family that, one or the other or both of the people are maybe I like you. You're a good friend, but you're not the person I want to spend the next 50 years with.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that goes
Makes
back to the
sense.
idea.
Right.
Can you, have you been in conversation? Do
Right.
you even know who one another is?
Right.
Yeah,
Separate from the
exactly.
day to day,
Exactly.
bringing up
taking
children.
each other for granted.
Yeah.
Just not really focusing on what the other person really wants too.
Yeah,
Putting
right.
their needs first. I always feel like you get in trouble when you don't really listen to someone and
Yeah.
see what their needs are before your own. I feel
true.
like that's crucial.
Somebody's asking, and I think it was something we had talked about potentially talking about, which is what was the hardest time that you went through in your marriage, and how did you get through it? Because
Yeah.
obviously we're all sitting here.
I had 2 hard times because I had 2 relationships. One, my husband passed away when he was 46 years old. So
That's pretty
that sucked.
Yeah.
That was really hard.
And your children, really.
And yes, they were 10 and 7. So, and then the next relationship was me just having the courage to walk away from something that wasn't working for me. And it took a hell of a lot of courage. Mm-hmm. And like we were talking about earlier, like it's women, it is hard going out there at an older age, single, like we talked on the first Instagram Live. So dating.
Yeah,
after a
because
certain
I
age.
think there's a fantasy that comes along with that. Like you're saying, oh, I see people that are on their second and their third marriage, but
And they're happy.
It's real. I think it's really hard. I mean, I haven't been out there for a long time, but I remember I was so happy to be out there, but it was really hard because also, as you get to be at this stage in life, you're pretty set in your ways and what you like, what you don't like, and so is that person sitting across the table.
Right.
So to find
someone that checks the boxes.
for each other, I think it's really hard. And
Yeah, it's hard.
yeah, I mean, I feel like I don't know why I got, drew the lucky card because, I did.
That's
and,
amazing that you say that.
No,
Right.
and I literally found the love of my life, which was amazing that happened.
That second
to me.
time around.
The second time. I mean, we've been married 20-something years now. And, I mean, listen, there definitely are moments that aren't as good as the other time. I mean, I think that oftentimes it's when there's a stress situation. Like, I can remember... there were 7 years I was like a lunatic building a business, and there were some times that it got really, really intense, and it, intense for a lot of different reasons. It's time, it's money, it's, there's a lot of factors that come into play. And I think, how do we get through that? It took a little while, and it actually took having a conversation with a professional.
I was just going to say,
Yeah.
did you go to therapy?
Yeah,
and talk
not
to
for
someone?
a long time,
Yeah,
but-
but just
but-
to get you over that hump.
Yeah, because it was a hump.
Yeah.
I don't know that there was like a specific time in my marriage that was, really
Bad
particular. Well,
or
that was
hard?
pretty, that stuck out as like, wow, is this a do or die moment? I don't think there was anything like that. I had trouble adjusting to marriage in a way. I was 36 when I got married. I had a career. I was doing really well. I was in the working world. Had my own identity, all of that. And for some reason, and I wasn't somebody who sort of fantasized about getting married. I couldn't wait to get married. It wasn't like that at all. But the person was right. The timing was right. But I did have an adjustment. And I think for me, it's the kind of conversations that we're having now, actually. It's a continuum of looking at what can I do when I'm feeling either, lonely, unseen, the things that happen over periods of time, or whatever. What can I do? Or annoyed at him that he leaves the crumbs on the chair every breakfast. Like what can I do to make things better for me? And part of it is, and really I'm thinking about this more and more, which is why this topic, because I hope to have another 20 years we're together. Our children are grown. My husband's still working, but there'll be a time when we have more time alone together, and I think part of it is that it's such a cliche in a way, but you have to learn to know what can change and what can't change, and to not constantly battle the things that just
crumbs
are,
on the chair.
Yeah, the crumbs on the chair. We can call it the
You
crumbs
could be
on the
okay
chair.
with that at some point.
But don't you think that's also just part of being a little wiser and a little older? It's like you pick your battles,
Yes.
right? Like maybe you would have gone after Alan in a big way,
Right.
like 20 years ago, but now, whatever. It's
not
like,
that big a deal.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think it harkens back to the idea, so why stay in a marriage when things sometimes can be either a little boring or they can be a little bit, you feel a little detached from the person in and out of the years that go on, and why
Right.
stay in it? And obviously we're going from the point of view that the person that we picked are good people. So, we're sort of starting with that.
Right.
We
because-
didn't go into it with wanting to change that person at the very beginning.
Right.
You went into it knowing who that person was. And you
knowing
appreciated, loved them.
And the values.
Yeah.
Knowing the values
Right.
and
That's
all
the
of that.
most
So,
beautiful thing.
so we're starting from that place. But what time does, time is difficult. You put a lot of time into things are great and things are not so great. But I think when you look at what the positive things are, given love. Okay, the love's there. So we're starting from people that still have loving feelings. This has not become acrimonious. This has not become...
Yeah.
Because I believe
That's
in divorce, by
different.
the way. I mean, I think
Yeah.
divorce is a necessary thing at times,
So
for
do
sure.
I do too.
Yeah.
But you want a marriage that's worth being in. You want a marriage that makes you feel better than when you're not in that marriage. I mean, I think that's the sort of bottom line. And, you know, I think the companionship part of it is, you know, critical. You know, to want to be with that person, to want to be alone with that person, to want to feel that. I mean, I think,
Yes.
and if that's not happening, and like the conversation I had with my husband the other night, like this is what I wish was happening more, and to be heard felt great. Honestly,
Yeah.
felt really great.
Yeah.
Well, you
So
know,
it-
it's funny. The flip side of that is, you know, what is there any one thing that you can think of that has actually, because you've been married the longest, has kept your marriage healthy over, you
That
know,
many
4
years.
decades?
Yeah.
And the same, and you know, you were in a loving
Yeah.
Right.
relationship,
Yeah.
and so am I. So we're all really fortunate that way. Like, is there something just
There
on
is.
a positive note?
Yeah.
Well, there are two things I'll
Yeah.
say right up front.
Yeah.
One is I respect who he is as a person.
Right.
I know he's a good man. I respect his
Right.
values. I respect his loyalty. I do. That's a very big part of it. And the other thing is family. You know, we have history together. We have a
Yeah.
tremendous amount of history together, and children together, and a growing family together. And sharing that is it's a new adventure for us.
Yeah, that's
You know?
exciting.
So the idea of who he is as a person, even though we're very different people, you know, very different people, but who he is as a person, I value more and more. And I value the history we have together. And when I look around and we have sometimes those dinners where everybody's together and the kids are all talking together and we're sort of sitting back, I feel a sense of, I don't know, almost peace that I wouldn't trade.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that
What
I
about
know
you,
why I'm
Susan?
there.
What
I
is
think
that?
I think you know it's probably a version of what Phyllis said, but I think we're so like-minded, you know, in terms of how we think about things and where our priorities are, right?
Right.
Like you
Right.
know, we besides the fact that we love being together and we love doing things together, which I think is important. You know, there's this whole, all the different things we do, whether it's entertaining or traveling or playing golf or you know. Just being with our friends, it's something that I think we both really do. Like it's not like one wants to do it and the other doesn't.
doesn't.
You know, it's like
Right.
I feel like
So the activities
the
you love to do
activities
together.
we're very much connected in terms of you know what those things are
Yeah.
that we do. And I it's funny, we just have a lot of similar interests, which is fortunate. You know?
Right. I would say for me, I'm learning that it's really someone like in the past who's calmed my nervous system down. I guess that's where I feel safe and like I can really be me 100%. Like that feeling is just like also when you're with them that no one else is around. It's like the two of you. That feeling like you don't even notice anyone else around is so beautiful. And also just I've had to work on myself. I have a lot of quirks and a lot of things that sometimes get in the way of relationships and marriages. So I've had to work really hard and I want to. And I want to keep working really hard. That's what feels so amazing
Well,
because some people are scared of the work, right?
Yeah.
Are scared of what
No,
they're
the
going to
work is
see
good. The
in
work is
themselves what
good.
they don't like.
Yeah.
So
No, the
Yeah.
work is good. I'm not sure that we have all the answers here.
we do not.
But
Not at all.
I'm sure this conversation could continue for a lot longer.
Right.
We can finish with a fun quote. Okay. How about this one? A good marriage is one where each partner secretly suspects they got the better deal.
Love
Oh,
that.
that's interesting.
Love it.
Yeah.
Let
Yeah.
me think about that one.
Yeah. And with that, we
We
say
close.
goodbye and go Dodgers.
Go Dodgers. For sure.